everyone, and welcome to the 11th installment of Lifestyle Matters, Nourishing Yourself Beyond the Plate. I am joined here today by the wonderful Leora. Actually, I can't pronounce your surname, Leora Moffswitz. Have I got it right? Yes. I know what it's like when you've got a tricky surname like Guerrero, when everyone looks at it, they're like, what? How do you say that? So Leora Moffswitz, who is a functional medicine certified health coach. She and I have met through through social media, and we have so much in common, but yet still there's so many different aspects of the work that we do that I wanted to be able to share with you because I find her so inspiring. Her questions are so insightful. She actually has a series on Instagram called Leora Reflects that I find very, very uplifting and gets me thinking about all kinds of things. So Leora, I want to hand over to you so that you can chat a little bit about your journey, what brought you onto this path.
What brought me onto this path is a lifelong quest, really. I think that, my journey to becoming a functional medicine health coach didn't start when I signed up for the course. I think I've been on a journey of wanting to live a healthy life and wanting to live a better life for my whole life. If I remember back to being a kid, I remember my mom used to pack me sandwiches for school, and I used to put them to the side, and I then used to pack in my own lunch. She said, well, if you don't like the lunch, make yourself. So I used to put in like whole like vegetables, and I used to put in like real food when I was a kid. Yeah, I think the earliest memory of wanting to be on this journey is my grandmother actually bought me a book. It was called Foods That Harm, Foods That Heal. It was a Reader's Digest book, and I still have it. I still have that book. I actually brought it from South Africa to London with me, and it's still wrapped in the same old plastic that I wrapped it in when I was a kid. And when my mom wanted to take me to the doctor, I used to take that book, and I used to look in it, and I used to look for what could I do naturally to help myself, because I never wanted to do the medications and things that were out there. So it's been a long journey to get to this point.
What a fabulous story. And I love that you mentioned your grandmother, because I feel like grandparents have got such a special role in people's lives. I don't know if you know much about my story, but my grandfather was the one who sort of like was the inspiration for everything that I do currently. He had Alzheimer's, dementia, but had been on psychopharmaceuticals for over 20 years for a generalized anxiety disorder. And that's what spurred me in the direction of neuropsychology and wanting to understand how you can use nutrition and other methods of dealing with neurological and psychological conditions rather than medication. So I love that you still have that book. I think that that's so special. Do you have it framed or anything? Like, I feel like that's quite inspiring to be able to look at.
I don't, but I do have it here with me in London. So when I was packing up all my boxes to come from South Africa to the UK, my husband said to me, he's like, what are you bringing all these books with for? And I felt like if you look at somebody's library, that's a good idea of who they are in the world as well. And I almost feel like there's a story inside every book that I've chosen, how I got to this point, and the books that I have. And, when you start, if I think back to in my early years, my personal growth books, like one of the very first personal growth books I bought was The Power of, by Eckhart Tolle. What was that book called? The purple and blue cover, The Power of Now.
The Power
of Now. And I've still got that book, and it's like I've read the book, but I still want to hold it. So there's memory in these books, and I think these are the things that nourish us, Ray. And I think when you look at what nourishes you, I could say, well, that's just heavy books that I've lugged across the world. I could have just bought them when I got here, but if something brings you joy, it doesn't have to be a green smoothie that brings you joy. It's like those books bring me joy when I go and look at them. And when my father died, I realized I've got his books, and I've got the collection of his books, and I can see what interested him in his life that I maybe never got to ask about, that I can now go reference what he collected in his books. So I think that's part of the story for me in terms of what nourishes us, what brings us to this place of true healing. Because I think if we want to be healers, which you are, Ray, I mean, you're an amazing healer in what you do, and that's what we need to do. We need to look in and see what is it that what really nourishes us. So I'm hoping we can get to speaking about that soon too as well. So exciting to be with you, and I'm really grateful that you invited me to be with you today.
Well, I remember thank you for all your very kind words, but I remember when I started seeing you kind of popping up on my LinkedIn feed, I was like, oh my God, her posts are incredible. Like they just make me stop and think. And I think, wow, like I need to chat with her. So, then the second, of course, we had our initial conversation back in January when I was in London, and, we hit it off, and we were supposed to talk for half an hour. And of course it turned into almost 2 hours. And I thought, okay, I need to interview you. I think people need to hear your story. So yeah, we're going to get into what nourishes us. I love what you said about books, because I have moved country probably about 5 times in my life. And every time I move, I carry like at least one suitcase full of books and shoes. But one suitcase full of books. And it's the same thing. They've come across different continents with me because I just can't bear to let them go. And even if I'm not reading them anymore, I just like knowing that they're there and that I can reference them. And the thing that you said about, holding on to your dad's books, like I feel, these are the things, we were talking about connection in one of our recent conversations, and connection is so nourishing, right? And it sounds like you are very similar to me in that sense, where you want to, these sensory things, they trigger memories and connections of the memories of those connections. So do you want to talk a little bit to that? Like, what are the things that you're doing currently, or what you've seen nourishes yourself and your clients, beyond the plate? Because we, as functional medicine coaches, we work a lot with food, but from everything I've been seeing, there's so much more to it than just the food. So can you share some of your insights with our viewers?
Yeah. So one of the key things I think is just getting present to what it is that people need for themselves. So what nourishes me is not what nourishes you. So I think in our training, in terms of looking at things from a positive psychology standpoint, it's meeting somebody where they're at, and understanding what it is for them that they want to achieve in terms of their sense of connection. So for me, a silly little thing like, I've got my hot water with my cinnamon sticks in, and I feel like I'm connecting to what I need to nourish myself right now. I was sharing with Ray before we came on this that my iron levels are really low, and Dominique is actually on this call this evening, and she's a colleague of mine that I also work with from South Africa. And when your iron is really low, you feel absolutely exhausted. Now, how can I be a health coach with really low iron and tell people to go out there and be healthy? So Ray said to me, well, what did you do for yourself today? And I said, well, you know what? I actually took a nap. I took a nap for an hour, which I can do because I run my own business. And I just I went up to my bed, I lay down, I put the covers over myself. I didn't want to sleep too long because otherwise that's going to disturb my sleep tonight. But I had a rest for an hour, and now I can be fully present on this call. I could be available for my children in the latter part of the day. And I'm actually going to get some work done tonight as well, and then I'll go to sleep. So there's this ability to check in with my own biorhythm, and then it's kind of, you could call it I'm using myself as my own case study for what works for me. And then when I'm working with my clients, it's listening to what they need, and listening to what nourishes them, because it's going to be different for each of them. So, those are some little ideas. For me, it will be having a bath with magnesium salts. It'll be drinking water with cinnamon in it. I still like a sweet taste. Genetically, I've done my genetics, so I know that I've got, they call it, I'm a super taster. So I'm one of those people that I always want something sweet. Like I'll eat a meal and I'm like, something's missing. I always need to have something sweet. So for me, cinnamon sticks in water, it tastes really sweet, and I don't have and it's balancing my blood sugar. I don't have this need to go and look for something sweet to eat in the house, which is one of my challenges. Is I love chocolate. So it's that, it's just about, what are the little pleasures and the little joys? I'm totally a sensory person like you as well, Ray. And I am going to book for myself a day at a spa where I can just rest, reset, swim, be in nature. Those are the things that make me feel good. And the interesting thing is, in speaking to more people, especially coming out of this pandemic, I think we've had sensory deprivation. We've been on way too much screen time, too much indoor time. There's a sense of fear, anxiety. There's an epidemic of a fear-based medical model. And for me, that is what I'm committed to disrupting. I'm committed to disrupt medicine and health being something that we have to fear. I think that we all have the power to be empowered with our health, and to, hire a health coach, hire someone like Ray, someone like myself, where we are able to help people transform your story around your health. Because at the end of the day, we also our genes aren't our destiny. Our genes are the story that we were born with. And I've got pretty dirty genes, I've got to be honest. If you look at my genes, they are, there's even, they're not, I don't have the best genes. So I know I've got a lot more work I have to do than others. In the same way, they aren't my destiny, because if I have a rest in the day and I drink cinnamon water, then I'm not going to get pancreatic cancer, please God, like my grandmother did. So it doesn't mean that the story of your family history is there. And it was interesting. I was having an amazing conversation with Dominique, who's on this call, and we were saying in an amazing conversation how the story of my past, I feel like it stops with me. And she said it doesn't go any further. Like, it doesn't mean because I was born with this certain of these genetic challenges, or genetically challenged from my medical history and my family's medical history, that's going to be the blueprint for my future or my children's future. So it's an empowering viewpoint. I think I've gone on a bit of a tangent, but I hope you get some insight into a little bit more about me and how I work. And I work with people in a way that it's not prescriptive, because I think functional medicine is not protocol-based medicine. It's root cause medicine, and it's a personalized medical approach to supporting people uncover what it is that they need. And when you uncover what that person needs, then you put together a program that works for them. And it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So, yeah, I'm going to mute myself. I feel like I'm talking a lot.
No. This is the whole point of me interviewing you, so that you could talk a lot. This is your chance to be heard, and for you to share your heart, to share your journey, and for people to see you. And that's why I like doing these this series, because I always find people who I think, oh wow, your story needs to be heard, your perspective needs to be heard. We need more of this in the world. And everything that you just said resonated so deeply, because, when you said that word empowered, I have a program called Become the CEO of Your Health, which is 6 months long. And it's all about, it is not structured at all. Yes, there is an element of, diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplementation. But it doesn't follow like, oh, we've got to stick to this protocol or that protocol. It is very much tailored to the individual. And that's what I love about root cause medicine, because, what might be, let's say, just throwing it out there, depression. Depression for you might be very different to depression for me. You could potentially have genes for depression. I might be going through situational or exogenous depression. And I remember when I learned this in my undergrad, there was endogenous and exogenous. And endogenous is something that is biochemical, genetic, etc. And you might have a predisposition to that. And then exogenous is down to, maybe you're not happy in your job. Maybe you're not happy with your relationship. Maybe someone has just died. You're suffering a bereavement or a loss. So the triggers that, the symptoms, they're showing up to kind of give you clues. But just because someone's got the same symptoms doesn't mean that they require the same treatment protocol. They're going to require, a lot of investigation, a lot of, personalization. And I feel like that's the beauty of what we do, where we can get very, very specific and very tailored in how we approach and help people in a way that, unfortunately, the current medical model, it's great for if you break a leg or you have a heart attack and you need to get rushed to the hospital and a paramedic will show up in 5 minutes. But it is not phenomenal at taking care of people and looking after chronic lifestyle conditions. And that's why, I saw it with my granddad. His doctor just kept writing him scripts for Valium over and over again across 20 years. And I never want to see anyone who's on a prescription for longer than 6 months. I don't care what it is. If you do it for longer than that, it is liver damage, heart damage, brain damage, gut damage. When people say, oh, I've been taking codeine for 9 years, I'm like, why? Why are you taking codeine for 9 years? And then you wonder why you're constipated. And that's something that I'm seeing more and more of as well. Like a lot of people who have been on painkillers, not realizing how much damage it's causing to their gut. And then no one in their immediate their immediate medical team asking, well, why do you need to be on this for so long? And what can we do to make sure that you're, dealing with pain and getting to the root of the pain? So I want to touch back on, you and your cinnamon sticks, because I kind of obsessed with that sort of thing. Sorry. Can you show everybody again?
Well, I have to show you how big they are, because this got me really excited. Look how huge they are. They are really big.
Yeah.
They're really big and they're delicious. And in fact, when I worked for Metagenics in South Africa, we had a product that had cinnamon in it. And I used to actually sometimes suck the tablets because they had cinnamon that I could it's also your body's way of saying something that you need.
Yeah.
It's something that you need. So I can feel that it's something that I need. And I think that's also very much the approach that I follow. It's about an intuitive eating model that I often do with my clients. And I mean, if you intuitively think you want to eat, I don't know, chocolate brownies and carrot cake all day long, maybe we need to not follow that particular approach. But it's about working with what signals are you getting from your body? And if you feel like something, and this is really interesting, I went through a phase about a month ago where I was obsessed with eating pistachio nuts. I was literally I could just eat bags and bags of pistachio nuts. And then I realized that they're a really rich source of melatonin. And I mean, I expressed to Ray a while back that I was having difficulty with my sleep. And my body was obviously looking for ways to reset, because that's what this is. If you think of scales, scales, that is all the body's trying to do. It's just saying, there's a stressor, then the scale is out of balance. Then it's saying, well, what can I do to bring it back into homeostasis? It's all it's trying to do. The body is so intelligent, and it knows exactly what it needs to do. And if you just start to realize you're the driver, so you're in the front seat of your own car, and you've got that steering wheel. And you need to know, when do I need to put my foot on the accelerator and when do I need to put the foot on the brake? And I had a fantastic teacher who always likened that, if we look at the stress response, actually, where if you look at the foot on the accelerator, that is looking at, he spoke about, it was a discussion around glutamate and GABA, and almost like that permanently having your foot on the accelerator is not going to be what you need for your life. You're needing to engage the brake of your car as well, which is the GABA. So if you can't just have that foot on the gas nonstop. So these little tips and tricks are ways to help reset where I'm at. And it's also something that I find beneficial when you use easy to understand examples for people, because I think we're coming from a society where rest is badly regarded. It's like when I had a friend earlier, and I mentioned to her that I had a rest for an hour. She was like horrified. She was like, "You had a what in the middle of the day?" I'm like, "No." I said, I put myself to bed because I'm going to help nobody if I don't rest. So that's also something that we need to realize, is it's good to be unproductive, because that's where we get creative. When you go and have a swim or go for a walk in nature, those are the things, what helps us in connection. It helps us to connect with ourselves. It helps us to connect with others. And all these little tips and tricks, they're very simple things, because, if you look at a general doctor, and I have a deep respect for the medical model in terms of, as you said, Ray, like your emergency medicine. I really do. And don't come to see me if you've broken your leg. I'm going to send you right straight through to the A&E. But it's about working out what is it that we need to do to kind of navigate the way to a sense of health and vitality that's got long-term opportunities for being well, because that is really what we need to do. We're in a long game, right? We're in the long game. It's not a short-term commitment.
Well, that's a wonderful way of looking at it. I tend to like to get people to think of it as like, if we are rubber bands, and in the traditional sense, rubber bands can be expanded, and then they're meant to contract in order to retain elasticity. Now, if you are consistently being stretched, you don't retain elasticity. In fact, you snap. So we want to be thinking more about our bodies in that way, like giving it that chance to to contract and expand, contract and expand. And that's what rest does for us. And I love Mediterranean countries because, they shut down for 2 hours every day, after they have lunch, and they go and they chill out. And I've got that in my genes. I've got that Iberian, Spanish bloodline, and I'm all about having a nap in the afternoon. And I grew up with parents who are exactly that way. If you ever call my family at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, nobody's awake, everybody's asleep. Right? They're in the Caribbean and they're all having a siesta until about 5, and then they wake up and they can go through until like midnight or longer. But resting for success and listening to your body. I love that you said that you said, I am just paying attention to the signals that my body is giving me. And funnily enough, I want to touch on the chocolate brownies and the eating the carrot cake. Obviously, if you're saying that you're craving these things, that's not because we're supposed to give in to them, but it's because, like you said, the body is seeking energy. So you're looking for why is the body seeking energy? Why doesn't it have energy? Why is it craving quick release energy in the form of sugar? Because that's what those things are. And chocolate, by the way, when you say you love chocolate, that's a lot of magnesium that you're probably needing more of, because the more stressed we are, the more depleted we are in magnesium. So if you're craving chocolate, it's okay, maybe you do need to rest a little bit more, and maybe you do need to possibly supplement. You talked about Epsom salt baths. That's a great thing, having something like that. But those signs and signals that the body is giving us to try and get back, like you said, back into that state of homeostasis, they're so powerful. And unfortunately, we've sort of, drifted away from that, because if we go to the GP and we say, oh, I'm not feeling great, I'm very tired, I can't get out of bed, they're like, oh, maybe you're depressed. Here, take this pill, right? Rather than being well, why can't you get out of bed? What's going on in your life? And, that 10-minute appointment model, it can't work. And, when you said you wanted to be disruptive about healthcare, I want to talk about that, because I want to know what you do in your practice to help your clients start paying attention to what's going on with them. What are the practices that you help them implement in order to listen to their bodies? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that I do in terms of helping people to identify where it is that they're at, I would say the most important thing is listening, because the truth is that people actually have the answer. I don't think there's no lack of information out there. I mean, the truth is, people say, well, what do you do? Well, I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a nutritional therapist. I'm not a doctor. You could call me a listener. I'm a listener, and I'm listening for the cues to hear when people are ready to make an action step. So I'll give you an example. What I did with a client that worked so amazingly well. It was with regards to caffeine consumption. And it was something where that was the one trigger that was causing them a lot of disturbance. So by actually just identifying that one little thing that needed to change, there was a whole cascade, just like an inflammatory cascade. If you think of the flip side of that, an inflammatory cascade is where, the body, you do more things that bring about inflammation. You can also do things that start to quieten down that inflammation. So for this particular person, they had issues with their detoxification pathways, and they couldn't metabolize caffeine effectively. So by taking them off the caffeine, and again, it wasn't me saying, you need to stop coffee, because who's going to do that? They're going to look at me and go, are you crazy? I'm don't take my coffee away from me. It was me listening actively to them and hearing a gap for them to say, oh, wow, let me consider that by switching from caffeine to decaf, that I could start to sleep better at night. I could start to feel less burnt out, because they were kind of having caffeine to get them going in the morning, which is, it's the caffeine and the alcohol. We talk about the scales, caffeine to get them up, and then alcohol to get them down. So it was like this wibbly wobbly woo that was going on in their lives. And the beautiful thing was, it was just one small change. So my methodology is one small change, one win, and then the next one. Because if you want to change your lifestyle, and this is Lifestyle Matters, that's how you do it. There's no secret sauce. People say, well, how do you do it? Or, what is your secret? My secret is to listen well, to listen for a gap where people have something that they want to do differently, and then to move forward with that. So at this point, I was in a corporate role recently. I've also recently moved countries, and I'm really excited that I'm in the early stages of my business. And to this point, it's been a group health coaching model where I've had 2 big groups that I've done. Dominique was actually one of the speakers that I had on my group with me as well. And there was an amazing dynamic. I think one of my kids are about to open the door. Oh, here's a little person. Mommy. So this is what happens.
I need your phone to speak to Ashabia.
You need my phone. Okay. She needs my phone. All right. So when you're 5, you need a cell phone, right? Okay. Take your phone with you.
I need to.
I'm in the middle of an interview.
Tell her she's going to end up on YouTube. She's going to end up on YouTube.
Okay. Can you go out, please?
I don't know how to call Ashabia.
Okay. You see, this is a perfect example. This could either be elevating my stress response, but she's my child, so these are my kids, and there's my husband that's
Shira, come.
Sorry about this. Okay, I love you. Okay.
I need to speak to Ashabia. Now please, can you?
So the truth is that Ashira actually loves being on camera. So she knew I was on this call, and she does that. She takes those moments. She took the gap. So I actually don't feel stressed. I may be a bit flushed, but I don't feel stressed in this moment because it's not worth it, right? Like, so what if my kid came in for a moment? So it's also about teaching people that stress is going to happen, and it's about being resilient and about how do you deal with that in the moment, because there's going to be another thing, and there's going to be another hit, and there's going to be another hit. So it's all about building your ability just to cope. So I think that's a lot of what I do in terms of how I bring things in. But you do have to repeat what I was talking about, because I didn't expect the little one to come in. Just remind me.
Well, we were just talking about how you deal with your clients, and you were sort of mentioning that you have like group coaching programs, and you were talking about Dominique. And
yes.
But I think what just happened, by the way, was brilliant, because that is, rolling with it, having perspective, seeing the lighter side of things. And I think children help us do that so well. Like when we can get all serious and in our heads, and they just kind of bumble in and have no idea what's going on. Yeah,
no, they totally do, and that's what I've realized. Because I'm in a wellness entrepreneurs master's program at the moment as well, and in this particular program, it's an amazing space because my mentor she speaks about living a blended life, and that's what I'm living, right? So this is my blend. My blend is I'm at home. So to be quite honest, she's my child. So to her, she doesn't care whether I'm on Zoom or on Clubhouse or on anything. It's like she wants what she wants right now. She's going to come in and she's going to get it. Now, I can either suppress that as her mother, but remember I said I want my challenges from my own past to stop with me, and I want her to feel that she can come in. I asked her not to, but so what? She came in, I'm still here, life carries on. It's like, she got the phone. That's all she's interested in. If she could have the phone and watch TV all day long, I'd be the most amazing mother. So that's how kids are, and it's like learning from them. In the same way I learn from my kids, I also learn from my clients, and that's something that I enjoy as well. Is my clients teach me so much about how to be a better coach, because they tell me, this is something that I've done because of what you've suggested, and I'm like, no, it's not what I suggested. It's just something I heard you say, and then I picked up on that cue, and then we started doing it. So the secret sauce is listening. I think listening, tolerance, of course, looking at where there may be deficiency. I don't prescribe medication or supplements specifically, but I do give some guidelines around nutrients, because I do believe that where there is deficiency, it is an important thing to consider. So I do discuss that with people. But in terms of my scope of practice as a functional medicine health coach, I specifically stay in the coaching space more for me personally. And I do work with functional medicine doctor in South Africa, actually. So she's on my advisory team. And there's a lot of people that I work with that help me make the right choices together. What would be the right kind of program for a client. So in terms of private clients, I've got a few scattered in different places, but it's not a place I've been focusing. And the group health coaching model worked well for me because I felt that it could be something where people could support each other, and at a lower price point, get the support they needed. And in fact, remind me to send you, Ray, there was a recent article that was written by Cleveland Clinic on the benefits of the group health coaching model as well. And, even all of us that are in this room, it's not just Ray and I talking, we feel some level of support because we've got everybody that's here. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you so much. I usually like to kind of cap these at 30 minutes because I'm conscious of dinner times in the UK. But Leora, I want to know, how do people get in touch with you? How do they reach out to you? How do they find you? Where are you hanging out apart from Clubhouse?
Yeah, so I'm definitely on Clubhouse, and anybody that's not on Clubhouse, get curious, because it's a worthwhile place if you use your time well. So I am on Clubhouse, and there's some amazing rooms. Last night I did a room the day before, with Dr. Bob Rakowski from Texas. That would never have happened if it wasn't for Clubhouse. He's a doctor in Texas. I'm in London. I was with Pete Cohen, who's an incredible motivational speaker. And now we're going to have a weekly room on how to have fantastic health. So Clubhouse for sure. Another place would probably be my Instagram account, where that's just where I reflect on who I am and what I do in the world. And it's just, I don't have one of those brilliant social media strategies of what I'm doing there at this moment. I'm just kind of just sharing what's there for me. And if there's nothing to share, then I don't share. And LinkedIn. And then my website is under construction at the moment. So right now, it really does not represent who I am and what I'm doing with my practice. But my husband owns an amazing design agency, and I've just got the brief. I've just got the look and feel of everything. So that's on my list of things to do. And on my biggest list of things to do is just to continue doing what I'm doing. And, Ray, you can always find me through Ray. You can find me through WellWorks. You can find me through Instagram. I don't know. Where else? LinkedIn. I'm around.
You definitely are, but you are very, very active on Clubhouse. In fact, you are the one who kind of got me hooked on it. You and Matt Dipple, the both of you my very first Clubhouse room was with Leora and Matt. And I think Dr. David, the brain maker guy.
Perlmutter. How was that?
That was wild. That was so wild. That was a Friday night. I'm just like chilling out, and Matt pings me into this room. He's like, Leora's talking and David Perlmutter's in here. Get in here. And I'm like, okay.
That was insane. These are the things that can happen on Clubhouse.
Yeah. Elon Musk might walk in one day while we're there, while we're just hanging out.
I think there's a leveling of the playing fields, because what I like is that we've all got something to contribute. And I think that's what we need to see. The difference between the coach approach and the expert approach is that we are learning as well, and mm-hmm. I think the difference between sometimes certain, if there's a doctor approach only, it's not doctor says, patient does. It's patient almost dictates, mm-hmm. in a sense, because we mm-hmm. can only work with people in the way that they want to work. Mm-hmm. I can tell you to drink water, exercise, eat healthily, take your supplements, meditate, and whatever all these wonderful things are. But if you look at me and you just go, I really love McDonald's and I really love coffee and alcohol, then I've got to hear that. And I've got to hear, well, okay, then where are you at in your stages of change? Do you want to get healthy? And that's okay. If you want to live that way, then that's not the group of people that I work with. Mm-hmm. That's not because I don't want to help them. It's just because I can't do my job well there. I don't operate in that space. I operate in the space with entrepreneurs, with leaders, with people that are ready to say, I'm ready to do something different, because then I can help you. And if you're not ready, that's also fine. So it doesn't always have to look, we don't have to wait for it to be, we don't have to wait to be in, and I have amazing coaches that do work with people like that. So that's what I love about like Ray and I, it's like we help different types of people as well. And I think that's the exciting thing. It's just about finding who I can help well, and who I can identify with in a professional and a personal way, and just help more people. When people say, what do you do? I'm like, I try to help people.
Yeah. And you listen. And that's probably one of the biggest things, biggest wins, actually, being able to listen, because I feel so many people are wandering around in this world, and their husbands don't listen to them. Their doctors don't listen to them. Their children don't listen to them. their friends don't sometimes want to listen to them, because if they've been struggling with, let's say, a health issue for a very long time, sometimes the people around them just become fatigued by hearing about their struggles. So, which is why coaches, we're there to listen and to not be judgmental, and to just be open and give clients and give people that safe space where, you can come and offload, unburden yourself, and feel heard, because that doesn't tend to happen very often. And I have a really funny story about being heard, and then we're going to open it up if anybody wants to ask some questions, and then we'll close in about 10 minutes. Okay, you guys, so you can go have your dinner and relax. I had a driver's license that expired. So when you go to Trinidad, like, they give you a license for 5 years. And because I live in England, and 1 year I didn't go back for a couple of years, and it had expired. So, and then the year that I went back, my mom wasn't well. She had just been diagnosed with cancer, and I was needing to drive her around because I'd come home to help my dad and my sister take her to appointments and stuff, right? And trying to get like the renewal, they said, oh, you missed the cutoff date. You're going to have to retake the test, do all of this stuff. And I'm like, no, you people, you can't, I don't have the time to do that. Like I can't have people ferrying me around to, to come back and forth to do the different tests and all. I had to do like the theory test and the practical. So they said, well, why don't you just go and sit and wait and just hope that the superintendent of whatever, I forget what it's called, like, just sit and wait and he might see you today. So I sat there and I waited for 4 hours. I was there from like 7 a.m. I got seen at 11. He brought me into his office. I just sat there, and people kept coming in and out, in and out, in and out with him. And then he finally looked up because he realized I'd been very quiet, just sitting, waiting for him. Because I'm like, I really need this thing. And he is clearly a very, very busy man. And he looks up at me and he says, how do I help you? You've been here for a while. And I'm like, yeah. And I said, well, I'm having this situation with my license. I've been out of the country and I'm back now, and my mom's not well. And he says, well, what's wrong with your mom? And, I tell him, and then he just tells me everything about his life story then, like, all the fact that he's not sleeping, he has high blood pressure, his wife, left him, like drama, like all his stuff. And I just sat there and I listened, and I said, well, have you ever tried that? Have you ever tried that? And he looked at me and he goes, you have something about you. He said, what do you do for a living? And I said, I do this. I listen to people. I literally said, this is what I do. I listen to people. He said, you're a wonderful listener. He's like, and how can I help you again? I said, I need my driver's license today. I don't need to retake the test. And he's like, done. And he just stamped it and just approved it like instantly. So like the power of listening for people who are being bombarded all the time by other people needing things from them and demanding. He was just so great. He just let me know everything about him. And he's like, how do I help you? And I'm like, please, can I get my driver's license today and that I don't have to retake the test? And he's just like, sure, here you go. So power of listening, very important, great skill to have as a health coach and in life. And if anybody has questions for the lovely Leora before we go away, please, this is your chance. You have the opportunity to chat with her directly, one-to-one, face-to-face, not just on Clubhouse. So you can unmute or you can pop the question into the chat. Feel free. I'm just seeing a question in there. What days are your fantastic health Clubhouse rooms on? That's a good question, because I was going to ask too. I'm like, I want to be there. I love when she's running a room.
So that's going to be every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. British Standard Time. So that'll be 8 p.m. South African time. Mm-hmm. And it will be, I'm running the room with Pete Cohen. I'm in his club. It's in his club called MI365. Which is, and we're working on quite some exciting projects that I don't have information to share at this exact moment, but it's just about that you can have fantastic health. I mean, what amazing thing. Instead of saying, I don't want to get the disease that my grandmother had, what could it look like to have fantastic health? Because it's possible.
It is totally possible. It is so possible. I love that. I really, really love that. All right, Leora, and to everybody who has been here and has shared and asked questions and has been, I'm loving Heather's. Where's your you had like a bottle of water or something just now that I was looking at, and it's I just seen it like a little while ago, and I was like, what is that? But just so nice to see all these smiling, happy faces. I'm always impressed by how often women just show up. I very rarely find men join these. And that's fine, but it's always women who are the ones who are like taking action, taking charge, moving things forward. very dedicated to self-improvement. And I love that. I love that we see women on these calls. I would love if we could start inviting, though, that our partners, our spouses, to be part of these too, because, we were talking the other day about community and connection. And part of your health journey is going to be about like the connections around you. And I do think that, you are the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So if you're only surrounding yourself with people who are not on the same page as you when it comes to health, then that's what your health is going to look like. And that's what your life's going to look like. And if you're around people who are driven and dynamic and go-getters and who are proactive about their health and focused on prevention rather than cure, then that's how you're going to be as well. And that's why I think, the fact that you're in a mastermind is amazing. Because it's such an uplifting place to be. I joined one in November and it has revolutionized my life and my thinking. And I've made some amazing connections through there. And just being around people who are like-minded and who are so positive and having that, like you said, that touch point once a week. I mean, we meet 3 times a week, which is a lot. But, just knowing that we're connected and that we're all on the same journey and that there are other people cheering you on and celebrating your successes and, helping you recognize your wins. Because I think sometimes we forget to do that. We discount the positives because we're so busy going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. We don't stop and pause. And going back, we're going to wrap up on rest. I think resting for success is such a huge component. And when it comes to nourishing yourself. So that's my 2 cents on the whole concept of what happens beyond the plate. Leora, if you have any final words, now's your chance to share.
No, I just wrote down what you just said, because I think resting for success is not what people think. And I just, sometimes we say things and other people hear them. And I heard what you said, because that's what it is. We need to rest for success. We need to listen for success. We need to reflect for success. And just take pauses along the way and say, just check in. Is this working for me? Isn't this working for me? Is there another way? Could I do this a different way? Just be curious. I think that's my parting words, is just, if this has been something that's inspired you or intrigued you, don't rest on that. If it's lit a little fire inside your mind, and you found value in what you've heard, then do something about the curiosity. Because if it lives just there being curious, something else is going to distract you tomorrow or after you've listened to this. So listen when you're curious, and if you remain curious, then there's a little seed that's been planted, and you need to start watering it, because you can't ignore what has piqued your curiosity. And if it wakes you up in the middle of the night, yes, it could be your liver that needs a good detox. But if it's waking you up and you feel like, I've got to do something about this, there's something I need to do about this, this is lit a fire inside of me, then that's what you need to do. And that's your passion, it's your purpose, it's where you need to be. And when we live inside of that, and when we remain curious and excited about life, that's vitality. And that's what I want my clients to have. That's what I want any connection or contribution that I make. I want people to have that feeling of vitality, because in that space, you don't feel tired, even if your eyes are.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's because that's so beautifully put. Beautiful. What a wonderful way to wrap up this evening. Thank you so much for being my guest. Thank you to everybody who has joined. Thank you to all the people who are going to watch and catch up on it later on. I'm so pleased to have had you, Leora. I want to have you again. I feel like, oh my God, we need to do this like every week. It's so much fun. Thank you.